There are good examples when bloggers do really good, important work, but I don't see it as enough of a general trend where bloggers really lift up the debate, which is what I'd like to see.
Can I just come back?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, when you mention Ireland, do you mean the economic debate around the recent crash, or are you talking about this generally about EU legislation? Because those are two separate issues. There's for example, John will blog about EU legislation, what's going on there, but it's a whole different story to then try and understand why the crash in Ireland happened. I mean, we did actually do a lot of coverage about why the crash in Ireland happened. There was quite a strong debate, and actually there was clear polarization between the left and the right on that. About Ireland, where the left was clearly pointing out with a lot of evidence and substance saying that this has nothing to do with the being in the euro was part of that, but asset prices didn't rise exponentially purely through because the country was in the euro. So there was a lot of blogging. I mean, but I don't see that necessarily as euro blogging. That's more like economics blogging. I mean, there's Duncan Weldon who writes for us, who does a lot of good stuff on the economic around the whole the crash.
Just a short in on that. It actually follows up what Paul was saying in the previous panel. In the case of the Irish crisis, actually, the newspapers have covered it very well from a range of perspectives. And where the blogs come in is where the newspapers don't cover things well. Really, very few bloggers have got the time, the effort, the resource, and the expertise in those fields to be able to comment effectively on something like that. Whereas the papers actually did and have been doing and are continuing to do so from different perspectives. So I think one of the reasons why we've had a lacuna in the Euro blogosphere about that is, frankly, we don't have the expertise to do it as well as it is already being done for £1.50 or £2.
There's also an important point, which is I only blog as a hobby. I don't get any money or whatever or payment for it. All I've got is my reputation, and therefore I stick to things where I think I've got something to contribute. I don't know enough. I'm as interested as the next person.
I'll read papers on it.
Yeah, exactly. But I've got nothing. I never write about United States politics. It's not because I'm not interested by it. It's simply because there's nothing extra I can bring to the debate in that area. And secondly, if we're to take it to the next level, well, I'm sorry, but the reader numbers for anything in European Union affairs are so damn small to mean that you can't actually, unless you do something like Euractiv, which is building an enormous castle on a kind of a foundation of sand in terms of its total number of readers, sorry Joe. But given their due for having created that castle, I can't make a business out of 600 people a day. And so, therefore, to try to build blogging, EU blogging up to a kind of the next level, I don't know which direction I could take that in. But the reason I don't write about Ireland is not because I'm not interested, because in my own personal knowledge, and I think there are other bloggers who take that same approach, will be we just write about the stuff where we know something, we've got something additional to contribute to the debate.
Do you want to? Yeah, I mean, but this comes down to what's public, what is public life all about, in terms of the great developments that the internet have made in terms of being able to, one person being able to communicate with many, even if it is just 600 a day, that's quite a few people. But in terms of a part of life that isn't work and a part of life that isn't state, it's a huge gain. So, John, you're an entrepreneur and all the rest of it. You make money out of your blog, great. But I mean, the impulse that gets most people to blog. I don't blog as a professional thing. I had to write news reports for the Telegraph to do that. The reason why I write blogs is because I want to. And the reason why I write blogs is because I think public life and public engagement is an important thing, and having a world outside work and a world outside the state where politics can be discussed is very important. So in that sense, I am a bit disappointed. I think there's a time lag. I think the blogosphere will catch up with the Irish debate, but it's not actually just about economics. I really do find it absolutely fucking baffling that people now, economics, it's called political economy, Smith, Ricardo, Marx, all those people, they didn't think economics couldn't be understood by people. The kind of dismal scientists who claim to be economists today and talk bullshit and jargon, maybe they do, but we should have an opinion on economic developments. We should have an opinion on all things in world affairs, and what's happening in Ireland is is very, very significant, and we should try and unpick it. And blogs are a good place where you can start having some of the conversations to look at the inconsistencies. Why is it? Some great research published by the University College Cork, where two accountants, these were left-wing sociologists or political scientists, looked at IMF programs, looked at EU IMF programs, and the EU IMF programs are the ones that are most anti-social welfare and provision. Where did the minimum wage reduction come from? It came from the EU. What's it got to do with fiscal policy? Nothing. I mean, and again, I'm just surprised there isn't more of a debate in the blogosphere about those kinds of issues.
Well, Sonny, how do you build up a blogosphere? Are you confident that more of a momentum will build around an EU blogosphere, or is it just the subject matter which is going to keep those numbers down?
Well, yes, partly because I don't think there's enough interest in. There is interest in a lot of issues, including the EU, including Ireland, all these sorts of issues. The problem is, and I think John is right, man. It's difficult to build the numbers. And I mean, for example, we publish on Liberal Conspiracy from about 200 authors on a regular basis, and there's a whole range of topics every day. You've got stuff around the cuts, you've got the student protests. Someone just blogged about Andy Coulson today. In the morning it was about protest culture and where is this all leading to, the Vodafone protests and the protests against Topshop. There's someone who's blogging about the environment and WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks has been crazy for us in terms of the debate and the level of interest. So it's difficult. My job as editor is to basically try and put lots of look at what is hot right now, what is people, what's the topics people are interested in, and sometimes stuff comes along and I say, that's really important. And around the time the island went down, we basically had to chuck everything else off the front page, and every day it was like 4 or 5 days in a row, just every morning, island, this is what's going on. Partly because the right was just going on mindlessly about how it was all down to the EU, and there was a lot of stuff to unpack there, which we did, and then the debate sort of broke out between, Daniel Hannan going on about how these socialists didn't understand what was going on, and vice versa, and so all I'm saying is that I think it's difficult because the topic is just not sexy enough. I mean, who wants to know about EU legislation on a regular basis?
Well, but you say that that you're trying to unpick how the EU relates to all these different topics. But do you think that that actually the EU does relate to a lot of these topics, and that, for example, things like the financial crisis at the moment in the Eurozone, that's obvious. I mean, that's really brought it to the fore. But there are ways in which the EU can be linked to a lot of the things.
Yeah.
And then you could approach it that way.
What I would do is to look at what the media is reporting on, and there's not enough attention paid to the fact that media blogs are incredibly popular, where people sit there and they dissect what is in the Daily Mail, the Daily Express, all these kinds of, even Times, the Guardian, etc., and just take it apart and say why this is wrong. I mean, it's easy to do that with the Daily Mail and the Daily Express, but the point is that they are incredibly popular because people really get angry at what is in the right-wing press, and then they pass these links around. So what I would do, if I wanted to make a big popular EU blog, is to try and focus and constantly rebut some of the anti-EU propaganda that is pumping out, and say this is why this is wrong, this is why this is wrong. And actually, when we do those stories, they're really popular. People do pass them around. I mean, the Dozen Eggs Banned is another one. There was something about some pastries, a Cornish pastry, I believe. They said that was being banned or something like that. All this kind of rubbish that comes out, you can do that. And also, I guess the other problem is it's too long. I mean, even a lot of left-wing bloggers send me stuff and it's like 1,200 words. I'm like, no one's going to read this. You have to cut it into like 500-600 words. And so I think that you sort of sometimes need an editor to just say, this is rubbish, this is waffle, cut it down to 200 to 400 words, and then we put it out there. So there's not enough of that either.